Hello again, Steve here with a few thoughts on this thing I used to call the continuum of advancement, and I still call it that. There's this nature within us to grow, to find new things, and we can see that from the history of even just what we call modern man, modern humanity, right? All the way from living in caves. I did a little presentation one time about how years ago I went to the Orkney Islands up in northern Scotland, and I found there was this park, this old village, and the houses were underground. There were little hovels, little carvings into the ground where there was cryptic writing and pictures of animals and so on the walls. But these were, much smaller than this little room here, way smaller, like quarter the size of this, and a whole family would live in it. And they wouldn't have any knowledge of the greater planet or whatever. They lived on a small island. All the way to now, space travel and, the human genome and, even treating women as human beings and not treating other races as slaves. And a lot of these things would have been foreign to people days gone by. So that's an example to me of advancement, right? And I just used to think that it was, everybody continues to improve, myself included. I'm continuing to learn through, testing things through what actually makes sense and observing how things work and studying the works of great minds also a little bit. I used to think it was something inherent into us, built into us by this, some sort of benevolent power called the universe or God or whatever, that sort of thing. But more and more I get the point that, though that, I have no evidence that's not true, but the mechanism of it is becoming more clear to me. I started out by thinking it had to do with our inherent desires to improve. And then I realized that, no, there's got to be a reason for the inherent desire. The inherent desire must come out of some sort of pain in a way, right? If I want to get in shape, if I want to make more money, it must be that I'm feeling broke. If I want to be with somebody in a loving relationship, I might feel lonely or something like that. Like there's a prompting for the desire. Otherwise, why would the desire be there? And and even more than that, I think there might even be something behind that. And I came across the idea of survival. It seems like, if nothing else, or if there is something that's primary in all of life, all of sentient life forms, or organic life forms, is the necessity to reproduce. And in order to reproduce, we must be able to survive individually long enough to reproduce. And in the case of humans, one must be able to survive long enough not only to reproduce, but then long enough to rear or raise the offspring. So there's a serious investment in a life and the necessity for that. Because of that, then, so not only is there pains in life, we want to alleviate the pains, but also there's a competitive nature. And a lot of people are down on competition and so on. But in observing the natural world, that's what it is there's competition to survive, right? There's competition for food. There's competition for environment, habitat. There's competition for other resources, and there's competition certainly for mates. And that's where this comes down to. The one who can get the best resources, who can feather the best nest, who will get what's considered to be the most healthy or best mate. And they get to reproduce with that mate. I was actually reading a coffee chat about this a couple of weeks ago, and there was a gentleman there. He talked about how he watched this video or something like, or read this somewhere at once, about how there's these certain kind of birds that they had in a cage, and the trait of those birds is that the males will go into kind of a reality TV show almost format nest building competition close to each other, almost like the cake food making shows you have on TV where somebody's got to make this cake and that cake and they race to see who make the better one. Well, these two guys will go at it, building this nest, and they, most elaborate nest. And the one who, and then there's a female bird sitting over here, and the one who builds the best nest gets the girl. So much of what we do in life is along that line. Surely we continue to evolve and so on. We want not only the best girl, but the best, the friends to communicate with, the best, teams to be on. If we're going to be on some kind of a team, we want to be on the winning team. All that might feed back to getting the best mate in some way. But fundamentally, I think that those are all involved as well. This continuum of advancement, I see as completely holding solid. It's just deep down in the bottom, what is it that prompts the desire? And I would say that at least there is the seeking or the desire to overcome pain, and therefore desires or discomforts and so on. But there's also that inherent competitiveness, which is established in order to survive. And then, of course, by surviving, we get to reproduce. And these drives, these urges are very primal, deep down inside. I was listening to I was listening to a presentation by Christopher Hitchens, who I believe is amazing, not only believe, just observe, is an amazing communicator. But he was talking about how the male of the human being species has this amazing urge to basically spray sperm all over the place. As much as intellectual people want to get, and much as people want to talk, holy talk and everything else, at the bottom of it, there's this intense urge for men of, certain ages especially, because they produce this massive amount of sperm. They produce, a man in an ejaculation produces or puts out like 250 million sperm, like way more than is needed. And has this almost like a pressure. It's like a pressure cooker that the top is about to blow off. Men of a certain age, they walk around like this with like a pressure inside, wanting to explode and wanting to find a place to explode. And to me, that is an urge put in there somehow by our development, so that we will explode in certain places. So it's like a biological imperative. It almost feels like a biological imperative that is built in through the evolutionary process, the development process of the current human being, so that it will be done. And to me, that's also behind big time what drives this continuum for advancement. Just a little bit of empirical evidence. We've had a couple of discussions along the lines of, many, like hundreds probably, of coffee chats. And recently we had one on sex. First of all, see how I put an ad on Kijiji. It was taken down by Kijiji. That was the first ad that's ever been taken off Kijiji by the staff there. But before it was taken down, I had like a couple of hundred visits for a short period of time, way off the charts compared to what I normally get, because the topic was sex. I had one guy send me a message wondering if this was a swingers club, like off the chart. And the videos and the blog and so on that I put up afterwards, it's getting more views than typical. There's this huge interest in sex, and it's to me, it is not perverted. It is natural. We are natural. It is a natural curiosity. Is it more than a natural curiosity? Is it a natural urge? It's more than a natural urge. It's like a pressure cooker that wants to explode so often. And that drives, whether we want to admit it or not, the cars we drive, the houses we build, the nests those birds were building, that is driving it. They don't even know it. So the continuum of advancement, it continues. And that pressure cooker keeps wanting to explode. Steve here. It's great chatting. We'll talk again soon.